Well, good evening. Welcome to Fort Negley. My name is Krista Castillo, and I am the site manager here. Tracy, my second in command, I guess, Tracy Harris, is busy in the lobby, or I would introduce him personally. I apologize for getting started a little bit late. This is kind of a special program for the roundtable, and parking is not the simplest out here right now, so I wanted to give people a little bit extra time to make their way in. So this is the time that the National Civil War Roundtable meets at Fort Negley. We meet every month on the third Tuesday at 7 p.m. We bring in different programs from local speakers and speakers from out of town, such as our speaker tonight. So if you like the program, you're welcome to join us every month. And since we are getting started a little bit late, I won't make too many announcements. As you saw when you came in, the Greer Stadium is coming down, so we are very pleased to be moving forward with that. And our fundraising committee is busy at work raising the money needed for a new master plan for the entire park. So hopefully by the fall we'll have some nice green space over there and some more convenient parking for the fort. Just want to tell you a little bit about how we came to learn about 17 Men. I often sing the praises of the Civil War Trails program. Fort Negley has been a member for 8 or 9 years now. Many of you are probably familiar with the Civil War Trails program. We have a sign out front that connects us to other Civil War sites in Tennessee, and then the larger program links Civil War sites in a number of states. And they have Civil War Trails has a very small staff, and they really do a lot for overlooked sites like Fort Negley. So this was just before Christmas, and I got a call from the Civil War Trails Executive Director, Drew Gruber, and he said, I saw this amazing exhibit at Sumner Hall in Maryland. It would be absolutely perfect for Fort Negley. You have got to give Sumner Hall a call and see if you can get in touch with the artist, and maybe she'll let you bring it to Fort Negley. And so it's just one of those really amazing connections, because without that phone call, we would have never known about 17 Men, and I don't know that Shane would have ever heard about Fort Negley.
No.
So it was just one of those connections that was destined to be made. And it's so, having something like, I'm going to get a little sentimental and mushy right now, but Fort Negley had a pretty tough year a year or so ago, and to have an exhibit like this honoring U.S. colored soldiers, men who I imagine, just like the men whose spirits probably had something to do with saving Fort Negley from development. It's just, it's very meaningful to have these portraits at Fort Negley right now. It really symbolizes what we've been hoping to achieve this whole time. So we are just thrilled to have Shane here. And before I introduce her, I do want to recognize Friends of Fort Negley, past and present board members. Our former board members just rotated off last month. So Gary Burke, who's also the vice president of the Civil War Roundtable, and then Chris Cotton and Lynn Maddox are also here in the back. Chris is, as of April 1st, the new president. Oh, and V. Thompson. V. Thompson, Vice President. So we've managed to keep the Friends group going and even wrangle some fantastic new board members. What else am I forgetting, Chris? This is usually what I ask. I usually ask Greg what I'm forgetting, so he's not here. In an effort to stay on time, I will go ahead and introduce our speaker today. Shane Davison is a retired medical illustrator based in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The 17 Men Portraits of Civil War Black Soldiers project came about after a friend shared a tiny photo album that belonged with her great-grandfather, Captain William Prickett. The project gave Shane a chance to combine her love of genealogy and her talents as an illustrator, and the exhibit has been traveling to various Civil War-related venues since. And I do want to mention, before I bring Shane up here, tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. at Tennessee State University, Shane will be giving this talk at the Floyd Payne Campus Center Forum in room 210. So if you'd like to encourage any friends or family to see Shane at TSU, please do so. So without further ado, Shane Davison.
Thank you, Krista, and thank you all for coming to the talk. I love to talk about this project. It is really close to my heart. So I'm not sure how to get this started. So let's see. Let's see if this works. Okay, so I live in Ann Arbor, as Krista said, and about 7 years ago, I was visiting a friend in Ann Arbor, and I was looking around in her home, and I noticed that she had a lot of paintings on the wall, original oil paintings. And I said, wow, these are interesting paintings. I like these. Who did them? She said, oh, those are done by my great-grandfather, Corwin Knapp Linson. And I said, huh. Interesting. I've never known somebody who had a, ancestor who was a painter, which is what I started out my life hoping to be. And she said, yeah, I don't really know anything about him. He was a painter. I have a bunch of his paintings. And I thought about that for a while, and I went home and I said, I'm interested. I'd like to build a family tree for your great-grandfather. She said, sure, but I just don't know much about him. So she, shared his name and his approximate dates, and I started to work on his family tree. And the tree moved along quite well, and it was a very interesting tree, interesting family. And I went back to my friend and I said, I'd like to add some photos to your family tree, but do you have any? And she said, no, I don't have any at all. But I have a cousin, my dad's cousin, and she owns a lot of family photos. And here you see her looking at her album of some of her ancestral photos. So she put me in touch with this lady, Anita. We started emailing back and forth. Anita lives in near Springfield, Illinois, so we didn't meet. But we're emailing, and she's sending me photos, and I'm adding them to the family tree. And then she says to me, I have this little tiny album someplace. I'm not sure where it is. And she says, it's not members of my family, but it was my great-grandfather, who was William Prickett. It was they were men who were in his troop when he was the captain of the United States Colored Troops. And she said, would you be interested in seeing that? And I said, sure, I'd be interested in seeing that. So William Prickett had already been added to the tree, and just a little background about him. He was born in New Jersey to a farming family. he was signed up for the Civil War. Soon after it started, he became a sergeant in the 14th New Jersey Infantry. And then at some point, after the government decided to begin this United States Colored Troops, he was asked if he would like to change his regiment and switch to the Colored Troops and lead a company. And he said yes, he would be interested in that. He had to go to Washington, D.C. and meet with some top brass. And so that happened. So just a little bit of history, which maybe, all of you already know, but I just want to go back. So we all are on the same page with this, with what was going on. So I won't read it. Anyway. So the United States Colored Troops started to be formed in 1863, and Captain Prickett joins the Colored Troops beginning of 1864, and he's going to be the captain of the 25th Regiment, Company G. So the 25th Regiment trained at Camp William Penn, which was outside of Philadelphia. It's no longer there. And so he went to Philadelphia to start training with his troops. And while he was in Philadelphia, he met a young woman named Elizabeth Gilman Warner, and they became engaged. And then he and his troops finished their training, and they headed down south. So Anita tells me that she has this photo album, as I've already mentioned, and she says, am I interested in seeing it? And I was quite intrigued. I didn't really know anything about the United States Colored Troops. I'm very interested in vintage photography, though, and I knew that photographs of African American soldiers from that time period are extremely rare. So I told her I was very interested in seeing it. She said, this won't be part of my family tree. And I said, yes, I understand, that's fine. I would still like to see it. So she said, all right, I'll start photographing the pages for you. And so the photograph album is very tiny. You can see there's a replica of it up there. That's the size of the album. It was probably made to fit into the pocket of his uniform jacket. So there was a little bit of history about the album, which Anita told me. She said, he had gotten very sick during the war. And we believe that probably happened in Florida, when they got to Florida during the summer. The camps a lot of disease tended to run through the camps. And he said that he told Anita's aunt that if some of his men had not nursed him back to health, he did not think he would have survived. So we speculate maybe that's how this album got made. Maybe these were the men who took care of him. He asked them for their photos, or maybe they decided to make the album for him. We don't know. So I want to go through the album I don't remember what order these came into my email any longer. She would only send a few at a time, so I was getting these email attachments, but it's wonderful that we have this technology so you can see these really tiny photos. They are literally the size of a large postage stamp, but you can see them blown up larger. And this is what I got. These are the photos, and they are organized here by rank, And that was how, once I finally saw the photo album, which took a couple years, that was how they were organized in the photo album. So the man you just saw in the previous slide and this man were brothers who enlisted together and were allowed to be in the same troop, the same company. They had another brother who was in a different company, in a different regiment, in a different company. And as you're probably noticing, which is what I was noticing as these were coming into my email, there are names.
Yeah, who wrote their names?
We do not know who wrote their names. That continues to be something we discuss periodically. But I was very intrigued when I saw that their names were on there. This is the youngest man who was in the album. He was 15 when he enlisted. One man was unidentified. James Tall was born a slave in Tennessee, and it took me a while to realize that I had two photos of James Tall, only one was identified. This is the oldest man in the group. He was about 50 years old when he signed up, which was really too old to sign up, but he probably fudged his age slightly. So I realized after looking at the photos that there were two types of photos. They aren't all the same type of photo. We have albumin prints, about 4 or 5 albumin prints. That's the photo was made by a glass negative being put in the camera, and then the negative was exposed, the glass plate was exposed, and then once it was dried, a print was taken from that glass plate negative. So this is a print like you would think of as in the pre-digital era, a print from a negative, if that makes sense. The other type of photo, and there are more of these, is a tintype. Now a tintype, there's no intermediate step, there's no negative, so these are reversed from life. So I don't know if you can see it, but Theodore Tennant on his hat, the bugle symbol, that's the symbol of the infantry, it's reversed. And you can also, you may not be able to see it on that slide, but it has the 25th on his hat. It says 25th, 25, but it is reversed. So there are more tintypes than albumin prints. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to know as I looked through this was who wrote the men's names, and we have never definitely figured that out. But the next thing I wanted to know was, were the names correct? Did the person who wrote the names really know what they were doing when they wrote these names? So I started to go through, and I took each photo, and I joined a website called Fold3, which is a military records genealogy website. And I checked each man, I checked each photo and the inscription on it with the record for the man. So I made sure that there was a Hiram White in the 25th Company G, and I don't have a pointer, but I don't know if you can see 25th USCT up at the top on the right, Hiram White, Company G. And then I just went through, so I made sure he was a sergeant, which he was, Sergeant Hiram White. And I just went through the whole album like this to make sure that I had the correct identifications for the men, and they all were correct. So I was pretty excited about that. And so then I wanted to kind of go through and see, well, who is in this album? And it was very interesting to see that we had men from a variety of backgrounds in the album. We had men who were born in New Jersey and Pennsylvania through on the top. Those tended to be the men who got the rank above private. They were all born free, as far as I can tell. Now I'm going into my research, which came a little later. But those were all free men, and they all were very likely able to read and write. Then we had a number of men from the border states of Delaware and Maryland. Majority were from Delaware. There was one man from Maryland, and he's on the far end on the right. The others were all from Delaware. And it was very interesting to find out that in Delaware, a slaveholder was allowed to enlist his slave and receive the $300 bounty that would normally be paid to the man. And this was something I believe the government was doing in order to keep slaveholders in border states happier. So two of the men from Delaware were enlisted by their slaveholders. Two other of the men in Delaware were free men when they enlisted themselves, and then two others, I could not figure out what was going on with those two men. So then we had two men from Confederate states, James Tall from Mississippi and John Walls from Tennessee. We had a man from Washington, D.C., which is kind of a gray area in terms of slavery not being outlawed until after the war began. And then we had the unknown man, the man who was not identified. So I was starting to get into the research of these men. And so this is where they enlisted. They didn't all enlist in the same place. Camp William Penn outside of Philadelphia is where they actually trained. But the italic typeface shows you where they enlisted. So that's Trenton, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Wilmington, Delaware, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and Waterford, Pennsylvania, which is very interesting. You can't see it, it's off the map. But that's Lake Erie up there, and just across Lake Erie is Canada. And it is possible, I did try to figure it out, I was never able to figure it out for sure, but it is possible that two of the men, James Tall and John Walls, who enlisted in Waterford, may have been in Canada and come back from Canada to enlist, or they may have gotten up to Waterford on the Underground Railroad. That was close to a stop on the Underground Railroad to get people up to Canada. So the men served at Fort Barrancas in Florida, in the Pensacola Harbor, which had been in Confederate hands until 1862 and then was retaken by the Union. So they were sent down there, and this is what remains down there at Fort Barrancas. And they were sent down to do garrison duty. So I just have a quote that I think is relevant for, this is Colonel Hitchcock was the man who was in charge of the entire 25th. So unfortunately, many of the colored troops were given garrison duty. That was what the government decided that they would do. So I decided to make a family tree for each man because I'd done enough research, and I was very interested in trying to get a picture of what was going on in each man's life. And so the first thing you do when you make a family tree, for those of you who are genealogists, you'll know that you start with the federal census. It's kind of a skeleton, I think of it, as to hang the rest of the research on. So unfortunately, for enslaved people, they are not going to be on the federal census prior to 1870 because enslaved people were not counted. They were often counted on a slave schedule, but they were not listed by name usually. They were listed by gender and approximate age. So, so that's a problem when you're doing research for African Americans. Now, of course, for the men who were free, who were from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, they all appeared on the federal census prior to 1870. So just to give you a kind of quick overview of what a little bit of a family tree would look like for one of the men. This is Sergeant Stephen Johnson. So he was a free man born in New Jersey. And this is where I found him on the 1870 census. This is a census for Trenton, New Jersey. And you can see he's highlighted in yellow there. He was working as a coachman at a livery stable. And if you look through the full census, you'll see that his parents were American born, and he was able to read and write. And those are important things to know. So for the men who were born in the northern states, this would be sort of a typical tree as it developed. And this is my tree on Ancestry.com. This is the overview page for one of the men, Hiram White. And you can see I found him on many, many censuses. I believe I found him on, I'm missing him on the 1880 census, but he's on every other census in his lifetime. And then he's in city directories. I found a huge amount of information for Hiram and for most of the men who were from the northern states and who survived into the 20th century, which he did. Now for a man like George Mitchell was enlisted by a slaveholder. He was born in Delaware. I could only find him on one census, the 1870 census, and I found him possibly in a couple city directories. So that's really, it's really frustrating to only get that limited amount of information. But for somebody like George Mitchell, you see I have found his parents. His parents are up there on the right side, John Mitchell and Eunice Yuncy Mitchell. Now, the way I was able to find his parents is because he was enlisted by a slaveholder. So the slaveholder, what the government made the slaveholder do in order to get that $300 bounty was fill out a whole lot of paperwork. And in process of filling out a lot of paperwork, he had that slaveholder, his name was Caleb Layton, he has to tell us a whole lot about George Mitchell. And this is one of the many documents that he filled out. And so for a man who served in the colored troops during the Civil War, who was born in slavery, you're going to get a lot of information from these types of documents. So it's sad history, but at least it gives us now some some more information that that would otherwise be very difficult to find. So the other thing that's really useful when you're doing genealogy for anybody who has served in the Civil War, white or black, is that the Pension Act came in. Anybody who was disabled by the war could get a pension right away, but by 1890, a lot of people were, a lot of the men who'd served in the Civil War were experiencing disability and, age-related illnesses, and they could no longer work as laborers. And so the government decided to step up and give these, pay these men a pension. So you had to apply, of course, and fill out a lot of paperwork, of course. And so this is the pension index card of Bayard Sorden, who was a man from Delaware. And we get a lot of information, just this little snapshot card, we get a lot of information about when he applied for his pension. You can see that over on the left. And we also, they don't all have this, but in his case, we have a death date for Bayard Sorden, which is June 16th, 1920. He died in Wilmington, Delaware. And we also see that he had a widow who applied for a widow's pension. So I actually got in contact with the National Archives and got all of the men's pension records as I was building their family trees. Another thing that you get on the pension documents, and this is for our friend Hiram White, man from Pennsylvania, is it gives you some really crucial information about their family. And in this case, we can see that Hiram, who later started going by the name Harry, and that would have been made it really difficult for me to find him on the census, because his last name is not particularly unusual. He had a wife. Her name was Mariah Taylor when he married her, and then she became Mariah White. And we know when they got married, July 25th, 1883. They were married by Elder G.H. Wade. And I also see, as I read farther down, that he has a son, Harry Claude White, who was born January 10th, 1888. So this kind of information is just so wonderful for a genealogist. So what to do next? I had spent a lot of time building these family trees, and I thought, well, I wanted to do something more. So I decided to do drawings, because that's really what I've spent my whole life doing, which is drawing things. And so I decided I wanted to see each man. The photos are so tiny. I wanted to see each man at life size. That was really, I had felt that I had found out a lot about many of them, and I really wanted to see them life size, so that's what motivated these portraits. And so what I did was I took the tiny, tiny little photo and I blew it up really, really big. I blew it up to what I thought was life size. And of course, for the tintypes, I flipped it. I flipped the tintypes. But so I blew them up large, and I made just an outline drawing. I wanted to make, I approached this like I would approach a project as a medical illustrator. I wanted it to be very accurate. I wasn't trying to be artsy-fartsy about it. I really wanted it to be an accurate portrait. So I did the outline drawing to make sure I had everything right, and then I took my sketch and I transferred it to the paper I had decided to use, and then I started to work doing the drawings. And at the very last thing I did with each drawing was I made an inkjet print of the man's military, some part of the man's military record, and I transferred it onto the drawing. So the internet was crucial. Obviously, the internet had already been crucial to help me do the genealogy, the family trees, but it was also really crucial since I am not in any way a Civil War expert, and I don't know, I knew very little about Civil War uniforms. So I had to do some research on what were they wearing, because I really didn't know. And it took a lot of staring at the little tiny photos. I really didn't know what a shoulder scale was at all, and that's what a lot of the men have on their shoulders, are shoulder scales. That eagle breastplate, which is just a fantastic, amazing thing. Several of the men are wearing the eagle breastplate, and of course the kepi, the kepi, which everybody pretty much has seen. And then the guns, you know, several of the men are holding the guns. So all of that came through just doing research. And once I had it finished, I had these 17 drawings, and I thought, well, what am I going to do with these? So I live in Michigan, as I've already said, and there's a big show every year that happens in Grand Rapids, Michigan, on the west side of the state. And it's called Art Prize. So I just thought, well, you know, I want to get it in front of the public. I want to see what people think. So I applied to Art Prize, and the man who runs the convention center was excited about it, and so he gave me a spot to display the artwork, and I stayed there the whole time that Art Prize happens, which was it's about 10 days. So I stayed there the whole time, and I talked to probably about, I don't know, 3,000 people over the course of Art Prize, and a lot of people knew absolutely nothing about, you know, about black men serving in the Civil War. It was completely new to them. A few people knew quite a lot, actually, and then there was everything in between. But everybody was really interested. People would actually stand there and read the bios, you know, so I was just thrilled that there was so much enthusiasm. And so a few people said to me during Art Prize, and this was, I think, Art Prize 2013, a few people said to me, you know, they're building this new museum in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Museum, National Museum of African American History and Culture. And they said, why don't you see if they'd be interested in the portraits? And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I don't want these portraits to sit in my house. That was never my intention, to have them sit in my house. So after Art Prize was over, I went home and I did get in touch with the Smithsonian. And I said, you know, I've done these portraits, are you interested? And they said, well, no, we're probably not interested in your portraits. That's not really our purpose, but we are very interested in the album. So I said, well, I don't own the album, but I know the people who do, and let me see if they're interested. And so I mentioned it to them, and they were very interested. So we went, the three of us, Anita, the photo woman, and her brother, and I went to, the museum wasn't open yet, but we went to Washington, D.C., and we met with the curators of the museum. You see on the right, the two people bending over, those are photography curators, and the man above who's bending over is the military history curator. So we met with them. They were really excited. They were really enthused. They wanted the album. And so, of course, you know, it wasn't my decision, but Corey and Anita, the people who own the album, they went home, and we had a lot of emails back and forth, because the Lincoln Library in Springfield, Illinois also was interested in the album. So they finally decided they wanted to donate it to the Smithsonian, that the Smithsonian would be the place the best place for it. So we met on the night of the preview. We met, and that's Corey and Anita's son Cam, and there's me, and that's my friend Julia, who started the whole thing by having all these paintings of her grandfather on her walls, and her daughter. So that was great. It was great to go and see it. It is on display. It was very exciting, and there it is. It's a tiny, tiny little album. It's smaller than the Eagle breastplate. And they do have an enlargement of one page from the album. So that was great. But another thing I had always hoped was that maybe I would find descendants of some of the men. And I keep all my trees on Ancestry, and I look at them periodically, and I update them a bit. And so I was able to find the descendants of 2 of the men. And interestingly, they both have connections to Nashville. Solomon Pfister was born in Pennsylvania, and he spent some growing up years in New York. And later, he moved around a lot. Later, he moved to Kansas. But he ultimately settled in Nashville, and he raised a family in Nashville. So I was able to make contact with his descendants. They no longer live in Nashville. So I was able to make contact with Solomon's descendants, and also with the descendants of James Tall, who was born in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and was a slave, and ended up somewhat near Nashville, not in Nashville, but coming back home and living near Nashville. So that was really exciting for me. And then I had another show of this work at the Evergreen Museum, which is part of Johns Hopkins University. And I got in touch with Vanessa Tall. She is the granddaughter of James Tall, the woman on the left. And I told her that the show was going to be in Baltimore. And I can't even remember why I guess I was telling her, and I told the Pfister descendants there in California. I'd never thought that she would come. But as it turned out, she is a Johns Hopkins alum, and she said she was going to be there around that time, so she would adjust her schedule so she could come to the opening. So we had this tremendously fun afternoon of having Vanessa meet Corey Atwood, who's the great-grandson of Captain Prickett, and that's his wife in the middle. So Vanessa's the granddaughter, though, of James Tall. And I found out later that her father had died in 2012. He was James's youngest son. James lived to be quite an old man, and he had several wives. And this was the youngest son of his younger wife. And so he had just died around the time that I was finding out about the album. And Vanessa's the family historian, and she knows a lot about the family history, and she was able to confirm some things that I was wondering about. She was able to say that, yes, James was a slave, and he took the opportunity one day when his slave holder had sent him to shoe a horse. He was talking to the blacksmith, and there was a lot of fighting going on at that time. And the blacksmith said, if you're thinking about leaving, this would be a good time to get out of here. And he did. He did. Now, we don't really know what happened after that. We don't know how he ended up in Waterford, Pennsylvania, signing up for the USCT, unless Vanessa has found more information out since the last time I talked to her. But so that was great, and I believe I am almost at my last slide. Yes. So I leave you with this thought, because I think it is very appropriate to this group, and in particular, this particular portrait of a man who was, born into slavery, enlisted by his slaveholder in the USCT, and just shows, tremendous military bearing, I think, and pride. So that's it. If anybody has any questions. Mm-hmm.
Did any of the men who discharged join the Buffalo Soldiers and go west? Because all the Buffalo Soldiers came out of the Civil War.
Right. As far as I know, no.
None of them did.
No. But I mean, I hesitate to ever say anything absolutely for sure. It's possible. Mm-hmm. But I did not find any evidence of that, but it's possible. Yeah.
I have a question about, it had that, each of the small photos have a border. That
Yes.
Was that kind of typical at the time, or did that have to be individually drawn on the?
No, you mean this
circular.
Yeah, those are. I should have explained that. The photo, which would be square or rectangular, is in a paper mat. So that's the paper mat around the photo. That was just part of the photo album, and that's what somebody wrote on, was that paper mat.
Okay.
Which, without with a tintype, that's a photo like this one that's made on iron, basically. You couldn't write on them. So it was a good thing that they were in that album, since somebody wanted to preserve their names. They had that paper to write on.
Are they all buried in cemeteries with USCT on their tombstones?
No, they are not.
Why is that?
Well, because somebody had to apply for those, for those tombstones. The government didn't just do it for you. You had to, like, your son or daughter or grandson, or somebody had to apply for that.
Well, in Nashville, we have 1,500 of those graves in Nashville that say USCT in the cemetery in Nashville.
Well, maybe, I could be wrong. Maybe it's not that way everywhere. I'm not sure. But there's only one man who for sure has one of those headstones, and it's James Henry Hovington, and he lived and died in Delaware, and he had children, and I feel pretty sure that they applied for that tombstone, because it's in a very rural cemetery someplace. And another man, I don't know where he's buried, Stephen Johnson, the man from New Jersey. He has some sort of a military marker, because I recently found a record for that on Ancestry, but I can't figure out where he's buried. So I don't know if he has the tombstone or not. And Solomon Frister was buried in Mount Ararat Cemetery in Nashville, which apparently all the tombstones have fallen over.
They haven't been kept up.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your talk and all this work. You haven't explained how you went from medical illustrator to these. You haven't mentioned yourself. And you did medical illustrations in color like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a medical illustrator learns how to do, look at something really carefully and draw it. I mean, that's part of what we do. So that was part of the reason that I thought that I would have a good skill set to do something like this, because I wanted to do realistic portraits, and I wanted to try to make them accurate, as accurate as I could make them. So.
How long did it take you to do each individual portrait?
It took me, let me just say that the family history tracing took much longer than the portraits. And the portraits, once I figured out how to do them in a way that made me happy, I could do a portrait in about 2 weeks. But it took me a while. I threw away a bunch of them before I got to that point. But
Are these the original drawings?
Yes.
Or are there prints of them? Or
No.
this is it? And what we see is what you drew? They're just
yeah. Oh, thank you.
In your research, did you come across any units that were albums like this, whether they were white or USCT?
Early on in my research, I discovered that there is another album of, I believe it's USCT, but don't hold me to that because it might be a state militia. There's an album of African American soldiers that is in Yale Library, I believe, and it was owned by the white officer. But I really don't know any more than that. That is the only other one I've ever heard of, and it's bigger. It's not this tiny.
Was that a government issue album? I was looking at the portraits and it seemed like to me, the government, you know, when you go into service, the first thing they do is take a military picture of it, and by the seal and stuff like that, I'm thinking it might be government.
No. Oh, you mean, because you're again talking about, like he was talking about the mat, yeah, no, it's definitely not. It's definitely not. The government did not do that during the Civil War. I know they did that later, but no. These were definitely, I mean, we know just from the fact that we've got tintypes and albumin prints, we know that there's possibly they're made by two different photographers or maybe multiple photographers. And this is definitely the paper mat that the photo is under. And you know, frankly, for this man, if we had been able to take the photo out of the album, which of course I didn't do, and I don't think the Smithsonian's even done it, it might have been possible to see if he had something on his sleeve that would indicate that maybe he was a corporal or a sergeant, but we couldn't do that, so.
So these photographs were made after they had been soldiers for a while, maybe years or two?
Well, again, we don't know when they were made, but one thing, and I'm actually really glad you brought that up. The companies tended to be about 80 to 85 men. That's how many they tried to keep in a company. I mean, of course, people would die, and so more men would have to come in. But so we obviously don't have the whole company here for sure, and we only have part of it, and sort of like a 25% of it maybe. And some people have told me that the uniforms look pretty good, and maybe that argues for early, but it also may be that they look pretty good because maybe they weren't wearing them all the time, and they put them on only for the photo. But all these men survived. Now that, to me, that argues that we're later in the war, towards the end. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be that the uniform itself was a photographer's prop.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? I know in some cases that was the case, you know.
Well, I don't think so here because, first of all, some of the men have the 25 on there. You can see it really clearly here. He's got the 25. I mean, these men were getting charged for their uniforms too, you know, and I don't think I don't think they were props. I think they were their uniforms.
Well, thank you. These are absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And all of your work, those hours and hours you spent, thank you so much. What a gift.
You're welcome. Thank you. Did I cover everything? Anybody have any other questions? Uh-huh.
Do you have any conjectures as to who made the album?
Well, Anita is completely convinced that she's the woman who owned the album before it was donated. She is absolutely convinced that the men made the album for her grandfather. That's her great-grandfather. And she is very convinced that they saved his life, that these are the men who saved his life.
Is there a historic marker where these men trained?
That's another good question. You know, sadly, that Camp William Penn was the land was donated by the Mott family. They were a Quaker abolitionist family in Philadelphia, and there's nothing there except for a gate. But there is a marker, you know, one of those sort of historic markers, like has blue writing. Yeah, there is a marker, but
no text on it.
No, it has text on it. It talks about which regiments trained there. It says this was the site of Camp William Penn. These are the regiments. There were like, I think about 8 or 9 regiments trained there. It was quite a few. And so there's the gate and the marker, and that's it. That's all.
How long will they stay here, do you know?
Till sometime in June.
June, and then they'll be going someplace else?
Hopefully they're going down to near where the men served, near Fort Barrancas. So that would be exciting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there a unit plaque or anything at Barrancas about their service there?
That's a good question, and I have never been there, so I don't know.
I was there in January. I don't remember seeing anything. It's a cool place, though.
Mm-hmm. It looks like it's a cool place, yeah.
Not as cool as here, but.
Well, of course not.
This Kurt Betters, he actually written 2 books, Confederate Spring and Confederate Winter and Freedom Spring, and they're available here at Fort Negley. But it's about a great book about a runaway slave who joins the colored troops and ends up back here at Fort Negley.
True story or
Fiction, the second one, but based on.
Mm-hmm.
This is fascinating. I'm just so impressed with your work. It's great to put faces to these soldiers.
Yeah.
As a former Army captain, you know, my conjecture on something like this, it was very common for very beloved officers for their men to do something like this as they
really.
So I could see it happening even today. And this is about the number in an infantry company of your leadership team in that company. And the first sergeant picture, kind of, he's usually the ringleader of things like this. So
okay.
If he was a particularly beloved officer, I can certainly see his men doing this as a parting gift.
Well, I think he may have been. I mean, he went on to be he worked in the. He became the Consul General of Auckland, New Zealand. So he worked in the diplomatic corps, and he was also in France in the diplomatic corps. So, you know, he was clearly a guy who had some good people skills and was personable. And from knowing his descendants, I can say they are super great people. So. Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at the regimental monthly reports for the 25th U.S. Colored Troop?
No, I haven't.
That would probably add some useful information.
Where would I find those?
Usually in the state archives, because I've only researched the certain states, like Wisconsin, for instance, they all keep it in their own archive.
But these are federal, so.
Where would the federal be? Well, that's something to research.
National Archives, maybe.
Have these pictures been shown in public schools in Philadelphia?
No, I would love them to be in Philadelphia. I mean, actually, one of the first things I was thinking was, I was pretty naive, but I guess I was hoping that there was still something associated with Camp William Penn. I mean, I knew the camp wasn't there, but I hope they will be able to go to Philadelphia sometime, because that would be great. So.
Mm-hmm. Are the sizes of the photographs, is that like a typical size of photograph for that time, or is it?
That's That's a really good, another really good question. I seem to have left a lot of unanswered questions. Those are gem size. That is called a gem size. It's a gem, for the tin types, it's a gem size. For the albumin prints, I'm less clear. Most albumin prints at that time were something called a carte de visite, or CDV, which is more like a playing card size. So, you know, maybe, I mean, maybe the men who got the CDVs got those specially for this album. But it's very tiny, so they were the least expensive type of photo. And they're not really unusual, but they're, you know, somewhat less common, I guess you might say. And I think they could do like 16 on a plate, on a photographic plate. So.
Are you planning on setting prints of these or anyone anytime soon?
No. No, I'm not. I have made prints for the Tall family, but those are the only people I've made prints for.
Take pictures or?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Did you want to say anything about your book?
Oh, I do have a book. Yeah, I have a book. I self-published on Amazon. It's called, what is it called? Well, it's called, okay, this is confusing. The original title of this project for me was Civil War Soldiers. And so the book is Civil War Soldiers, Discovering the Men of the 25th United States Colored Troops. Later, the 17 Men title, which is a little catchier, I guess, or something, that came about. So that does have a color reproduction of each man's drawing, and it has a copy of the little photograph, and it has the copies of some of their military records in it. So.
For all 17?
For all, well, yeah, well, yes. I mean, not for the man. I mean, the man who's unidentified is in there, but no military records. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
this is for you.
Thank you.
And just a little gift.
Thank you. You shouldn't have to do
And
that.
I forgot to thank Vanderbilt University for their assistance in bringing Shane to us. So I definitely wanted to mention that. And they are co-sponsoring her lecture tomorrow as well. So I hope to see some of you back.
You guys got the trial run. Sorry.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.